The person who can solve everyone else's problems is usually the last one to admit they have one. You have sat with something heavy for weeks, maybe longer. You turned it over every possible way. You researched it. You thought through every angle until your head hurt. And you still did not ask anyone for help. Not because there was nobody to ask. Not because the situation was unsolvable. But because something in you resisted the act of asking itself. It felt wrong, exposing, like admitting something you were not supposed to admit. That resistance is not a personality flaw. It has a very specific origin, and once you understand it, the pattern makes a different kind of sense entirely. The place it starts is earlier than most people would expect. From early on, the message was consistent. You are the capable one, the one who figures things out, the one others come to, not the one who goes to others. That identity got reinforced constantly. Good grades, quick thinking, being the one in the room who already knew the answer. Over time, it stopped being a description and became something closer to a requirement. Psychologist Carol Dweck's research on identity and intelligence showed that people who were repeatedly praised for ability rather than effort develop a fragile relationship with difficulty. Struggle starts to feel like a signal that the identity is failing, not that the problem is hard. So asking for help stops being a practical decision. It becomes a threat to the entire self-concept. Because if you need help, what does that say about the version of you that was supposed to not need it? The avoidance is not about pride in the shallow sense. It is about protecting something that was built over decades and feels load-bearing. When your whole identity is built on being capable, asking for help does not feel like a request. It feels like a confession, and the intelligence that built that identity makes the avoidance significantly more sophisticated. A highly intelligent person does not just avoid asking for help. They construct an airtight case for why they should not. They will figure it out eventually. The other person is busy. The situation is too complex to explain quickly. Nobody else would fully understand it anyway. Asking would create more problems than it solves. Every one of those reasons feels legitimate in the moment. And some of them might even be partially true. But the conclusion they all conveniently lead to is the same: not asking. Psychologist Timothy Wilson at the University of Virginia studied how people use reasoning to justify predetermined conclusions. He found that when an outcome is emotionally motivated, in this case, avoiding the vulnerability of asking, the reasoning process works backward from the conclusion. The mind finds justifications rather than reaching them. The intelligent person believes they are being logical. They are actually being protective. The logic is real, but it is in service of something emotional that never got named. The smartest arguments for not asking for help are often the most sophisticated forms of avoidance ever constructed. Underneath the reasoning, something more fundamental is driving the whole thing. To ask for help, you have to show where you are stuck. You have to name the gap, the place where your thinking ran out, where the answer did not come, where you could not get there on your own. For most people, that is uncomfortable. For a highly intelligent person, it can feel unbearable, because they are not just showing a gap in knowledge, they are showing a gap in the thing they are supposed to be best at. The gap does not feel like a normal human limitation. It feels like evidence of something they have been quietly afraid of their entire life, that the capability everyone assumed was there might not be as solid as it looked. Research from Brené Brown at the University of Houston confirmed that vulnerability is hardest for people whose sense of worth is most tied to performance and competence. The more someone has built their value around what they can do, the more exposing it feels to reveal something they cannot. The ask is not just a question. It is an opening in the armor. And for someone who has been wearing it for years, that opening feels dangerous even when the person on the other side is completely safe. Showing where you are stuck is normal for most people. For someone who is never supposed to get stuck, it feels like the whole story falls apart. There is another layer here that has nothing to do with pride or fear of judgment. Highly intelligent people have often had the experience of asking for help and getting something that did not reach them. The advice was too simple. The person missed the complexity. The solution offered did not account for the 4 variables they had already considered. And so asking created extra work, explaining why the advice did not apply, managing the other person's feelings about their suggestion, finding a polite way to decline something unhelpful. After enough of those experiences, the conclusion forms quietly. It is faster to do it alone. Asking is not worth the overhead. Research published in the Academy of Management Journal found that high-ability individuals were significantly less likely to seek help from colleagues, not from arrogance, but from an accurate assessment that the gap between what they needed and what was available was often too large to bridge quickly. The experience had taught them the math did not work in their favor. The problem is that this calculation, while sometimes accurate, becomes over-applied. It starts blocking help that would actually reach them. The expectation of disappointment prevents the search for the thing that would genuinely help. Past disappointments become present barriers. At some point, the protection stops being based on evidence and starts running on memory. And all of this plays out against a cultural backdrop that makes it even harder. Asking for help is penalized in most environments, subtly, usually, but consistently. In workplaces, in academic settings, in most social contexts, the person who figures things out independently is perceived as more capable than the one who asks. The perception matters because intelligent people are already being watched for signs of whether they live up to the reputation. So asking does not just feel internally risky. It carries external risk too. It might change how people see them. It might close doors that are currently open because of a presumed capability level they have worked hard to project. A study from Harvard Business School found that people who asked for help were actually rated more competent by their colleagues than those who struggled silently. But the people themselves did not believe that would be the outcome. Their prediction of how asking would land was consistently worse than how it actually landed. The fear was larger than the reality. It always was. The cost of asking for help almost never matches the imagined cost. But the imagined version is the one that controls the decision. All of this together creates a very specific kind of isolation that is easy to miss from the outside. There is a particular kind of exhaustion that comes from handling everything yourself. It is not just the weight of the problem. It is the weight of the isolation around the problem. Nobody knows what you are carrying. Nobody can help with what they do not know exists. And so the load stays where it started, with you in private, managed with the same mind that has been managing everything else and is starting to feel the strain. Research from the University of California found that social support, specifically the act of sharing a burden with someone else, reduced cortisol levels and perceived difficulty even when the other person provided no practical solution. Just being known in your struggle changes the physiological experience of having it. The help does not even have to fix anything. The telling is part of what helps. The intelligent person who carries everything alone is not stronger for it. They are just more tired and more alone inside the thing than they ever needed to be. Solving everything yourself is not a sign of strength. It is a sign of not yet trusting that strength can coexist with needing someone. So when you step back and look at the full picture, what is actually happening? An identity built around capability makes asking feel like collapse. A sharp mind constructs convincing reasons to go it alone. Showing the gap feels like exposing the one thing they were not supposed to lack. Past experiences of inadequate help narrowed the expectation of what asking could return. External environments reward the performance of independence. And the isolation that results is heavier than the original problem ever was. None of it was laziness. None of it was arrogance. All of it was a very human response to a very specific set of pressures, most of which arrived before there was any choice about how to respond to them. The most capable people are not the ones who never need help. They are the ones who eventually figure out that needing it was never the weakness they thought it was. If this put words to something you recognized in yourself, the next video is about why smart people hide how much they actually feel. The two are more connected than they might seem. Link is right here. Subscribe if this is the kind of content that actually reaches you, and ask for something today that you have been handling alone for too long.